Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Nice race at Santa Anita on Saturday as the co-feature. This race for Calabreds going 9 furlongs on the turf for a 3-year-old. It's race number 6. We're kicking off the pick 5 with the $200,000 Snow Chief Stakes. Get involved with a new DRF Bets account. Sign up at drf.com/bet. Get $150 in risk-free bets. Let's take a look at the field for the Snow Chief, and it just seems each and every year, Matt, this race is determined by who wants the 1 1/8 the most.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those interesting things too, because you feel like this is a group that you've got enough of a sample size where you would like to think that you could figure out who really wants 9, who's going to be a little bit against it. In a race like this, you've got half the field stretching out in distance, and not stretching out a little bit, stretching out a ton. I hate to say it this way and hate to put it this way. There's a lot of guesswork that goes into it, I think, about who will and who won't appreciate the added ground, especially when you consider some of the horses stretching out in distance. I think they're actually the most talented horses in the race. But again, it's a matter of who wants to go 9 furlongs and who doesn't.
The number 4 Irish Heat Wave has at least shown that he can go a mile. He's won at a mile twice. He beat a couple of these last time out up at Golden Gate Fields. He kind of battled on a nice easy pace, pressured by a couple of other horses. He was game down towards the inside. The 4th place finisher came back to win the Desert Code with an 87 Beyer speed figure. He's versatile from a running standpoint and race standpoint, but that was just a blanket finish last time out in the Silky Sullivan. And the way I'm looking at that race is I'm kind of against it.
Me too. I mean, it's an instance where, like you said, the 4th place finisher did come back and acquitted himself nicely and made that race look like it's legitimate. But at the same time, the 5th place finisher came back and earned a 68. So you had a pretty big chasm between the 4th and 5th place finishers and what they did in their next starts. And it's just an instance where if those 3 horses coming out of that race are going to be the horses that take the lion's share of the money, I just don't know that any of them has any sort of edge on this field, and I think there are some other more intriguing candidates.
Our Silver Oak was only beaten a nose in that Silky Sullivan. Maybe he's one of the ones to take out of that race because there wasn't a ton of pace. I mean, the half-mile split for that 8-furlong race was 48-1, and Our Silver Oak was in mid-pack, so at least he was running at the end of this race. He's just riding, what, a 9-race losing streak right now.
That's the key for me. You know, I think it's one of those handicapping angles that might get overlooked a little bit when you go, even if the horse fits on figures, you're on a prolonged losing streak, especially though a prolonged losing streak after winning in your career debut. That's usually not a thing that I like to see. So he's yet to beat winners to date. It's just an instance where, you know what, if he wins, I'll lose.
Lieutenant Dan was 3rd as the favorite in the Silky Sullivan, and I thought he had the 2nd best trip. The winner had the best trip on the lead. Lieutenant Dan was sitting right behind him, eased out, split horses, and he just changed back to his left lead. He was running at the end of that race, but it seems he's a little bit green, and all 3 of his wins have come sprinting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what you get here. That was his first start on grass. The outside draw is no bargain either. Like you say, he's done better work to date anyway, going shorter distances. I do like the idea, though, of him being able to take up arguably a perfect trip in here. I think there's a fair amount of speed in this spot. I think he's going to be out in the clear. Should have every opportunity if good enough.
I think a lot of bettors are going to gravitate towards Desmond Doss in this race because he is lightly raced, he has already earned a competitive figure, and he's arguably bred for this distance. He has several siblings that have gone long on the turf in the past. All he needs is a little bit of pace. Segue into the Timeform US pace projector. Red bar situation, fast pace, Desmond Doss coming from last.
Yeah, and like you say, he's that kind of horse where we talked about it a little bit, where, you know, it feels like you kind of know what a lot of these horses are at this point. Desmond Doss is the one. He's unexposed. He's really done nothing wrong. He's a winner in 2 lifetime starts at this point, or was 1 for 2. That's what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. But the idea also that from a tactical standpoint, if you believe that pace projector, he should have everything unfold the way that he wants it. And he goes out for a very dangerous barn in Phil D'Amato's. Talamo retains the mount. I can understand anyone that looks at him and says, he's the one I want. I don't want anybody else.
Not sure what happened to Mo Boo, the 8 last time out, Matt. This horse is an Uncle Mo colt. He sold for almost $400,000. He's well connected with John Sheriffs. It looked like maybe with that race and win 2 starts back, he was starting to figure things out, and it just didn't happen for him for whatever reason last time out. The 3rd finisher came back to finish 3rd in a 40,000 beaten claimer with an 80 Beyer speed figure. Again, from a pedigree standpoint, I think this horse is fine, but he is going to have to run much better. And just think, the last race, the Bomb, was a career best Beyer.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing for me. I look at it and go, where is the giant sort of move forward going to come for this horse? I know he's taken those baby steps forward time and time again, but I just think he needs to tremendously improve if he's going to have a chance to win this race. And that's not saying much because I don't know that we've got superstars loaded in this field. I just think he needs to run a heck of a lot better.
First time turf for the number 2 Oliver, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oliver is able to steal away to an early lead in this spot. He is stretching out off several dirt races. He's got some turf pedigree. Papa Clem 11% with first-time turf runners. The Dam won on the surface. She has foaled one first turf winner. She's a half to a couple of black-type horses on the turf. There is a question as to whether this colt is a little bit cheap and how far he wants to go, but he was stakes placed a couple of times sprinting at 2.
And I think what you just said sort of sums up my opinion of this race, is that there's a number of horses that maybe they are a little bit cheap. Maybe the distance isn't what they want. Maybe the surface isn't even what they want. It's a lot of guesswork in here for me. Oliver, I agree with you. He's going to be forwardly placed. I think it's going to be an instance where it's going to be fascinating to see, because it seems like all of Doug O'Neill's horses have speed. And I can't imagine them all just dueling one another into the ground. I'll be interested to see who sits and who goes.
Appreciated comes in off of a win, but it was only with a 59 Beyer speed figure. The good news is the 5th place finisher came back to earn a 74 Beyer speed figure in his most recent start. Appreciated, that was his first race around 2 turns. He's by the distance-loving turf sire acclamation. Maybe this is a situation where this is the kind of race. Fast pace, a lot of horses that may not want the distance. He probably wants the distance, that he improves in a major way at a big price.
You know, and the distance being the great equalizer, because on Figs, he's light right now.
Yeah.
But boy, if all these other horses, if they come up crying and wanting, you know, saying no mas, and this horse comes along and he can just outstay everyone, maybe that's the thing that sort of narrows that margin. I agree with you. He's interesting from a distance standpoint. I don't love him from a numbers perspective, but he's not without a chance.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Snow Chief to kick off the pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. And we've been talking about how distance is the key to this race. We're taking 2 stretch-out sprinters that have never gone further than 7 in their lives. We'll begin with the number 5, Carnivorous. I thought Carnivorous looked good over the synth at Golden Gate. What a nice ride and trip that day. Broke okay, checked a little bit. On the backstretch in between horses, Jock was not phased, shot up the rail, won very nicely. Last time out in for the 80, was running at the end of this race. I look at this female family, though. I see Eddie Haskell, and I'm beginning to wonder about the 1 1/8.
And I'm not going to try to claim that I think otherwise. I have no idea. It's a total unknown for me. The thing I find interesting about Carnivorous, you brought up that run up at Golden Gate. I love that he was able to come through on the inside. But if you go and you watch the very end of it, when he's well clear, don't get me wrong, he's basically geared down. He's got his head kind of cocked out to the grandstand. And if you go back to that run most recently at 5/8 at Santa Anita, it looked like he's just going to go storming on by and win for fun, but his head is cocked out to the grandstand. There's a part of me that wonders if maybe he's a little bit difficult to ride. Probably not a great sign that Gutierrez rides your horse as opposed to mine, but it is. It's an instance where in this race, I don't have any strong opinion. I just think he's an interesting candidate. Stretching out in distance, I'll give him a shot.
Maybe it's a hungry field and he'll be chewing up ground late. That's the number 5, Carnivorous. The number 3, Prodigal Son, another one bred lots of sprint in this pedigree. It worries me greatly. I thought he ran okay last time out, his second time on the turf. It was a 5-furlong race, and he checked slightly in between horses, but when you check slightly going 5 furlongs, you lose a ton of ground and you basically lose all chance of winning. What I liked after that was that he swung to the outside. He came with a little bit of a run. There was some interest there. We'll see. He does have some figs on his page going short that indicate he can win. If Doug O'Neill's Oliver goes to the lead, maybe Prodigal Son can sort of tuck behind in the pocket and maybe get relaxed early. I don't know about this distance, but I think this horse has shown a little bit of ability. I'm going 3, 4, 9, and 5. You're going?
I'm going 5, 9, 3, and 1 in a race where your guess is as good as mine.
It's the old spreadola as we kick off the pick 5 on Saturday at Santa Anita, and you can do it with a DRF Bets account. Get $150 in risk-free bets. Learn all the terms and conditions at drf.com/bet. An approximate post time for race number 6, 3:30 Pacific. Good luck.